I read to you from Psalm 30, Psalm 30. A psalm of David, a song at the dedication of the temple. I will extol you, O Lord, for you have drawn me up and have not let my foes rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried to you for help, and you have healed me. O Lord, you have brought up my soul from Sheol. You restored me to life from among those who go down to the pit. Sing praises to the Lord, O you his saints, and give thanks to his holy name. For his anger is but for a moment, and his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes with the morning. As for me, I said in my prosperity, I shall never be moved. By your favor, O Lord, you made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face. I was dismayed. To you, O Lord, I cry, and to the Lord I plead. I plead for mercy. What profit is there in my death? If I go down to the pit, will the dust praise you? Will it tell of your faithfulness? Hear, O Lord, and be merciful to me. O Lord, be my helper. You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and clothed me with gladness, that my glory may sing your praise and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Now this psalm, Psalm 30, opens and closes with praise. You would have noticed in the first verse in Psalm 30, a psalm of David, a song at the dedication of the temple. I will extol you, O Lord, for you have drawn me up and have not let my foes rejoice over me. And again verse 12, the last verse, Psalm 30, that my glory may sing your praise and not be silent, O Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Now we've all seen the placard which says, prayer changes things. What about the placard which says, praise changes things? That is also equally true. Our whole outlook and our attitude towards life can be completely transformed by becoming a people of praise, a people of worship. Now God had rescued David from a dangerous and very difficult situation. And this included a sickness. For we read in verse 2 in Psalm 30, it says, O Lord my God, I cried to you for help, and you have healed me. In fact, it was a near-death situation. Psalm 30 verse 3 tells us, O Lord, you have brought up my soul from Sheol. You restored me to life from among those who go down to the pit. The New King James Version says in Psalm 30 verse 3, I read to you from the NKJV, O Lord, you brought my soul up from the grave. You have kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. Again in Psalm 30 verse 9. What profit is there in my death? If I go down to the pit, will the dust praise you? Will it tell of your faithfulness? Now the situation included God's anger. In verse 5 we read, for his anger is but for a moment and his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes with the morning. In Psalm 30 verse 11 we read, you have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and clothed me with gladness. And the situation also includes emotional turmoil. In verse 7, by your favor, O Lord, you made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face. I was dismayed. But this trial also involved the nation of Israel. It was not just David alone, but it involved the nation of Israel. And David addressed the nation in verses 4 and 5. Psalm 30 verse 4 and 5. Sing praises to the Lord, O you his saints, and give thanks to his holy name. For his anger is but for a moment, and his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes with the morning. You see that? Sing praises to the Lord, O you his saints. Apparently, this was a national crisis which David had helped to precipitate because he disobeyed the will of God. As the anointed king of Israel, as the leader, he had sinned, and this crisis, this national crisis took place. And the crisis came at a time when he was enjoying ease and security, and he was proud of himself and his kingdom. For we read in verse 6 and 7, Psalm 30 verse 6 and 7, "As for me, I said in my prosperity, I shall never be moved. By your favor, O Lord, you made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face, I was dismayed." According to the superscription of the psalm, David wrote this psalm for the dedication of the house. Now the house could be translated as palace, referring to David's house, or it could be translated as the ESV translates it as temple, referring to the Lord's house. And that's the version I read to you in the beginning. If the word means palace, then the context is 2 Samuel chapter 5. And this could be the historical setting. David captured Mount Zion. He makes Jerusalem his capital. Before that he was in Hebron. Notice the words, "my mountain" in verse 7. All Israel had crowned David king, and he had built a palace. He had built himself a palace. He knew that his kingdom was established and God had exalted him. In 2 Samuel chapter 5 verse 12, 2 Samuel chapter 5 verse 12 we read, "And David knew that the Lord had established him king over Israel and that he had exalted his kingdom." So not only was David established king, but his kingdom was exalted. 2 Samuel 5 verse 12, "And David knew that the Lord had established him king over Israel and that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people Israel." So the context has all the ingredients necessary to make David proud and thus invite God's hand of chastisement upon him. However, if the house refers to the temple of the Lord, as the ESV translates it, then the context is 1 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 1 right up to 1 Chronicles chapter 22 and verse 2, and also 2 Samuel chapter 24. And this is the record of the national plague. And this plague was caused because David arrogantly numbered the people. And as a result, 70,000 people died in judgment. You see, when a leader sins, it not only affects himself and his family, it also affects the community that leader is called to serve. And this caused David great distress. In 2 Samuel chapter 24 verse 10 we read, "But David's heart struck him after he had numbered the people. And David said to the Lord, I have sinned greatly in what I have done. But now, O Lord, please take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have done very foolishly." In verse 14, 2 Samuel chapter 24, the same chapter, "Then David said to Gad, I am in great distress. Let us fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercy is great. But let me not fall into the hand of man." In fact, David clothes himself in sackcloth and he is asking God for mercy for the people. 1 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 16. 1 Chronicles 21 verse 16. "And David lifted up his eyes and saw the angel of the Lord standing between earth and heaven, and in his hand a drawn sword stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders, clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces." In verse 11 in Psalm 30 we read, "You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and clothed me with gladness." So David had actually put on sackcloth and pleading. He's taken away his robes and the royal robes and all that, and he's put on sackcloth and he's pleading to God for mercy. Then what happens is David purchases a plot of ground from Ornan, the Jebusite, and he dedicates it to be the site of the temple. In 1 Chronicles chapter 22 verse 1 we read, "Then David said, here shall be the house of the Lord." Then David said, "Here shall be the house of the Lord God, and here the altar of burnt offering for Israel." David began to use the plot that he purchased from Ornan as his own place, personal place for worship. So the second explanation seems to cover the facts better. So most likely, it is actually the temple, not the palace. In either case, the message of the psalm is very clear. the Lord forgave David and gave him the blessing of a new beginning. There was a Scottish preacher named George Morrison, and he was the one who said, the victorious Christian life is a series of new beginnings. The victorious Christian life is a series of new beginnings. And that definition very beautifully fits this psalm. Psalm 30. Psalm 30 speaks of a new victory. Number one, you find there a new victory from death to life in verses 1 to 3. Then it speaks of a new day from night to morning, verses 4 to 5. And then it speaks of a new heart from pride to humility, verses 6 to 10. And then it speaks of a new song from mourning to rejoicing, from mourning to dancing, verses 11 and 12. A new victory. We look into verses 1 to 3. A new victory from death to life. Psalm 30 verses 1 to 3. A psalm of David, a song at the dedication of the temple. I will extol you, O Lord, for you have drawn me up and have not let my foes rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried to you for help and you have healed me. O Lord, you have brought up my soul from Sheol. You restored me to life from among those who go down to the pit. Now David experienced three problems. Number one, the sinking mire beneath him that would take him down to the pit. Then the enemies around him who wanted him to die. And then number three, distress within him. That was like a painful sickness. But the Lord delivered him from all these three problems. Because of his disobedience, David was in the depths and the Lord had to lift him up. Psalm 18 verses 4 to 6 says, the cords of death encompassed me, the torrents of destruction assailed me, the cords of Sheol entangled me, the snares of death confronted me. In my distress I called upon the Lord. To my God I cried for help from his temple. He heard my voice and my cry to him reached his ears. In Psalm 69 verse 1 and 2, Psalm 69 verse 1 and 2 we read, save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in deep mire where there is no foothold. I have come into deep waters and the flood sweeps over me. The grave or the pit, that is the word Sheol in Hebrew. And that is the realm of the departed spirits. And the Greek equivalent is Hades. But instead of allowing David to go down, God lifted him up and brought him up. And God had done this for David before. In Psalm 18 verse 6, in my distress I called upon the Lord. To my God I cried for help. From his temple he heard my voice and my cry to him reached his ears. Now David's enemies would have been glad to see David die. But the Lord saved David's life and the Lord silenced the enemy. Psalm 13 verse 4. Lest my enemies say, I have prevailed over him. Lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken. Psalm 25 verse 2. O my God, in you I trust. Let me not be put to shame. Let not my enemies exult over me. Now we look at verse 2 in Psalm 30. O Lord my God, I cried to you for help and you have healed me. You have healed me. Now that the Hebrew word there is Rapha. Rapho actually. We say Rapha, but actually it's pronounced Rapho. It is used for healing. Mentioned in Psalm 30 verse 2. It also describes, that word also describes forgiveness, spiritual restoration, deliverance from mental and emotional stress, and it means wholeness, wholesomeness. That's what it actually means. In Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 21 and 22 we read, for the wound of the daughter of my people is my heart wounded. I moan and dismay has taken hold on me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then has the health of my daughter of my people not been restored? Again, Jeremiah writes in Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 19 and 20, have you utterly rejected Judah? Does your soul loathe Zion? Why have you struck us down so that there is no healing for us? We looked for peace, but no good came. For a time of healing, but behold, terror. We acknowledge our wickedness, O Lord, and the iniquity of our fathers, for we have sinned against you. Now the Hebrew word for healing in these verses in Jeremiah chapter 14 verses 19 to 20, the Hebrew word for healing there is marpe, which literally means a curative medicine. A curative medicine. Now it was David's pride that had actually brought the plague into the land. And David felt this pain deeply. So much so that he thought his convicted conscience and broken heart, he thought that would kill him. He was so filled with pain that he thought that conscience which was convicted and his heart that was broken would actually kill him. But God heard his cry for mercy, and God brought him from death to life. In verse 2, Psalm 30 verse 2, O Lord my God, I cried to you for help and you have healed me. Rapha. Psalm 30 speaks of a new victory from death to life. Verses 1 to 3. Now we look at verses 4 to 5. A new day from night to morning. Psalm 30 verses 4 to 5. Sing praises to the Lord, O you his saints, and give thanks to his holy name, for his anger is but for a moment and his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes with the morning. Now this psalm is not only David's personal expression of praise and thanksgiving, it is also used by the congregation in worship. Sing praises to the Lord, O you his saints. So David is addressing the congregation of Israel gathered together for worship, and he's encouraging them to worship the Lord. Psalm 34 verse 3. Oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. You see, personal worship that doesn't enrich our corporate worship actually may become selfish, and it may lead to more pride. Notice the contrast in verse 5, Psalm 30 verse 5. For his anger is but for a moment, and his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes with the morning. Now this contrast is actually the motivation for David's praise, from God's anger to God's favor, from chastening only for a moment to a lifetime of his grace. Isaiah 54 verses 7 and 8. For a brief moment I deserted you, but with great compassion I will gather you. In overflowing anger for a moment I hid my face from you, but with everlasting love I will have compassion on you, says the Lord, your Redeemer. For David, this was a dawning of a new day after a painful lifetime of suffering and darkness. Each morning, God's mercies are new. In the book of Lamentations chapter 3 verse 22 and 23 we read, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. In Isaiah chapter 33 verse 2 we read, O Lord, be gracious to us. We wait for you. Be our arm every morning, our salvation in the time of trouble. God's special help often arrives in the morning. Don't forget that. God's special help often arrives in the morning. Psalm 46 verses 4 to 7. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Psalm 59 verse 16. But I will sing of your strength. I will sing aloud of your steadfast love in the morning. For you have been to me a fortress and a refuge in the day of my distress. Psalm 143 verse 8. Let me hear in the morning of your steadfast love. For in you I trust. Make me know the way I should go. For to you I lift up my soul. Today, as believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, the resurrection of Jesus Christ has brought to us the dawning of a new day. Matthew chapter 28, verses 1 to 8. Matthew 28, verses 1 to 8. Now after the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, as he said. Come see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead. And behold, he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him. See, I have told you." So they departed quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy and ran to tell his disciples. Weeping comes suddenly as a guest, but God's gracious favor is with us for a lifetime. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 16 to 17. So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. You see, God transforms our sorrow into joy. That's what God does. He transforms our sorrow into joy. John chapter 16, verses 20 to 24. John 16, 20 to 24, Jesus says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice. You will be sorrowful, but your sorrow will turn into joy. When a woman is giving birth, she has sorrow, because her hour has come. But when she has delivered the baby, she no longer remembers the anguish for joy that a human being has been born into the world. So also, you have sorrow now, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you. In that day, you will ask nothing of me. Truly, truly, I say to you, whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Until now, you have asked nothing in my name. Ask, and you will receive, that your joy may be full." Notice in verse 21, in the passage that we just read in John chapter 16, verse 21, the same baby that caused the mother pain also brings the mother joy. The same baby that caused the mother pain also brings the mother joy. So God transforms our sorrows into joy. Just simply trust him. He is faithful, and he will transform all your sorrows into joy. Psalm 30 speaks of a new victory from death to life, verses 1 to 3. A new day from night to morning, verses 4 to 5. Then we see a new heart from pride to humility. Psalm 30, verses 6 to 10. As for me, I said, in my prosperity I shall never be moved. By your favor, O Lord, you made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face, I was dismayed. To you, O Lord, I cry, and to the Lord I plead for mercy. What profit is there in my death? If I go down to the pit, will the dust praise you? Will it tell of your faithfulness? Hear, O Lord, and be merciful to me. O Lord, be my helper. Now this word prosperity in verse 6 means careless ease. And this is a kind of a carefree self-assurance because things are going very well. Now this is frequently the attitude of the unconverted people. Psalm 10 verse 6 says, he says in his heart, I shall not be moved. Throughout all generations I shall not meet adversity. Psalm 73 verse 12. Behold, these are the wicked, always at ease. They increase in riches. Remember the parable the Lord Jesus spoke in Luke chapter 12, verses 16 to 21. Luke 12, 16 to 21. And he told them a parable saying, the land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul is required of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. But this kind of attitude is not only seen in the unbeliever, it is also a constant temptation to believers. So we must be very careful. I'm reading from Deuteronomy now. Deuteronomy chapter 8 verses 11 to 18. Deuteronomy 8, 11 to 18. take care lest you forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his rules and his statutes, which I command you today. Lest when you have eaten and are full and have built good houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart be lifted up, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, who led you through the great and terrifying wilderness, with its fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground where there was no water, who brought you water out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna that your fathers did not know, that he might humble you and test you to do you good in the end. Beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. One of the reasons why the Lord permits trials in our lives is so that we won't get too comfortable in our, faith and stop growing. Job says in Job 16 verse 12, I was at ease and he broke me apart. He seized me by the neck and dashed me to pieces. He set me up as his target. Prosperity without humility can lead to adversity. David's mountain, what is that? That means David's kingdom. It seemed very strong, but the Lord showed David how weak David actually was. In Psalm 30 verse 7, we read, by your favor, O Lord, you made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face, I was dismayed. Why is it called mountain? You see, the same word is used for Babylon. Speaking about Babylon, God says in Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 25, behold, I am against you, O destroying mountain, declares the Lord, which destroys the whole earth. I will stretch out my hand against you and roll you down from the crags and make you a burnt mountain. So the Lord says he will judge this mountain, meaning the kingdom of Babylon. When God's face is shining upon us, then we enjoy his rich blessings. Numbers chapter 6 verses 23 to 27. Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, thus you shall bless the people of Israel. You shall say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So shall they put my name upon the people of Israel, and I will bless them. But when we rebel, what happens? God may hide his face from us, and this causes trouble. Deuteronomy 31 verses 17 to 18. Then my anger will be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them and hide my face from them, and they will be devoured. And many evils and troubles will come upon them, so that they will say in that day, have not these evils come upon us because our God is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day because of all the evil that they have done, because they have turned to other gods. Again in Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 20, Deuteronomy 32 verse 20, and he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end will be, for they are a perverse generation, children in whom is no faithfulness. There are other references to this where God hides his face. God hiding his face. Psalm 13 verse 1, Psalm 27 verse 9, Psalm 88 verse 14. You can go through those verses. In Psalm 30 verse 7 we read, by your favor, O Lord, you made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face. I was dismayed. I was dismayed. The New King James Version says, I was troubled. Instead of dismayed, it uses the word troubled. The Hebrew word is bohol. And bohol describes intense agony, terror, anguish. It is used in 1 Samuel chapter 28. Remember when King Saul goes to see that witch to find out what's going to happen to him? In 1 Samuel 28 verse 21, and the woman came to Saul, and when she saw that he was terrified, bohol, she said to him, behold, your servant has obeyed you. I have taken my life in my hand and have listened to what you have said to me. Knowing that he had sinned, David cried out for mercy. and he even debated with God. You find him in Psalm 30 verses 8 to 9. He's saying, "To you, O Lord, I cry, and to the Lord I plead for mercy. What profit is there in my death if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you? Will it tell of your faithfulness?" David was a great king with a strong kingdom, but he recognized that he was only dust, one short breath away from the grave. So he humbled himself and he confessed his sin, and the Lord mercifully forgave him and restored him. Then God gave David a new song. So we have seen a new victory from death to life, verses 1 to 3. We saw a new day from night to morning, verses 4 to 5. We saw a new heart from pride to humility, verses 6 to 10. Then we see a new song, from mourning to rejoicing, verses 11 to 12. Psalm 30, verse 11 and 12. "You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and clothed me with gladness, that my glory may sing your praise and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever." 7 times in this psalm, David wrote, "You have, you have." In verses 1 to 3, verse 7, verse 11, you will find, "You have." In using those words, "you have," David is bearing witness to the strong and gracious hand of the Lord working on his behalf. Even God's chastening of David was an expression of his love. In fact, in Psalm 32, he says, "Day and night your hand was heavy upon me." So even God's chastening of David was an expression of his love, his hand upon him. Hebrews 12 verse 6, "For the Lord disciplines the one he loves and chastises every son whom he receives." Once David knew that he was forgiven and that he was accepted, what we see is, we find him moving from the funeral to the feast. He took off the sackcloth of sadness and he put on the garment of gladness. Psalm 30 verse 11. "You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and clothed me with gladness." In the Bible, a dramatic alteration of a person's life was often marked by a change of clothing. In Genesis chapter 35 verse 2, Genesis 35 verse 2, "So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, 'Put away the foreign gods that are among you and purify yourselves and change your garments.'" Genesis chapter 41 verse 14, "Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh." Then in Genesis chapter 45, Genesis 45 verse 22, Genesis 45 verse 22, "To each and all of them he gave a change of clothes, but to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 changes of clothes." 2 Samuel chapter 12 verse 20, "Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his clothes. And he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. He then went to his own house, and when he asked, they set food before him and he ate." When the prodigal son came home, what did the father say? Luke chapter 15 verse 22, "But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet.'" Psalm 30 verse 12, "That my glory may sing your praise and not be silent, O Lord my God. I will give thanks to you forever." These words, "my glory," means my heart. My glory means my heart, my soul. David was singing to the Lord from the depths of his being. He realized one thing, he would be singing praises to God forever. That's why he says, "I will give thanks to you forever." Listen carefully. Every difficulty in life is an opportunity to have a pity party or to attend a practice session, rehearsal for singing in the choirs of heaven. We have a lifetime of grace to prepare us for an eternity of glory, of praise and worship. In heaven there's a lot of praise and worship, so better become a worshipper now. Psalm 30 verse 5, "For his anger is but for a moment, and his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes with the morning." Yes, prayer changes things. Praise also changes things. Let us become a people of praise, people of worship. When you go to God in prayer, begin with praise and worship. Begin with praise and worship. Otherwise it's like going to God with a shopping list. God, I want this, I want this, I want that. Don't do that. Spend time with the Lord in praise and worship. Ascribe to Him worth, who He is. When you do that, you're expressing your understanding of who God is. Sometimes people ask, why should I tell God who He is? Why should I praise and worship Him? Take a little baby. When a little child grows up, when a baby grows up, becomes infanthood, and then slowly the child is growing up. The first words of, the father waits. I waited for my daughter Esther to say, Appa. Appa. And the first time she said, Appa, I was so thrilled. She recognized who I am. How much more our Father in heaven will be pleased when we, His children, recognize who He is and ascribe to Him praise and worship for who He is and what He does in us. Every difficulty in life is an opportunity to have a pity party or to attend a practice session, a rehearsal for singing in the choirs of heaven. We have a lifetime of grace to prepare us for an eternity of glory. Let's bow our heads in prayer.